You know, when we think about Native American history, a few big stories and names usually pop into our heads. But the truth is, America was home to hundreds of different nations, and so many of their stories have been kind of pushed to the side. So today, we're going to dig into some of those forgotten voices.
No, really, just for a second. What's the first image that comes to mind? For a lot of us, it's probably famous battles, maybe a couple of tribes we learned about in school, and it's often framed as this one single tragic story. But here's the thing, that picture, it's not even close to the whole story.
And that's exactly what we're getting into. We're going to go beyond the textbook headlines to find these incredible stories of resilience, of clever adaptation, and even success. Stories that are just as crucial, but we almost never get to hear them.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the Lumbee people of North Carolina. And right away, their story just shatters one of the biggest assumptions we have about Native American identity. They're a huge, powerful community that doesn't have a reservation.
This right here forces us to kind of reboot our definitions. We're so often taught that a tribe's identity is welded to its land, to its reservation. But the Lumbee show us a completely different way, an identity built and protected by its people, not just a place on a map.
And we're not talking about a small community here. The Lumbee are one of the largest tribes east of the Mississippi River. Their situation is really unique. They're recognized by the state of North Carolina, but they're still in this long fight for full federal recognition. So without that reservation land, they had to get creative to hold on to who they are.
So how'd they do it? Well, their strategy was all about people. They built these incredibly strong social networks. Their churches, their schools, those super tight-knit families, that became their reservation in a sense. It was through these powerful community bonds that they've kept their culture alive for centuries.
And that idea that survival can look different than we expect, that's a really powerful thread. It takes us to our next story, deep in the forests of the Northeast, with the Abenaki people, whose survival literally depended on not being seen.
This completely challenges our idea of what resistance even is. We think of famous wars, right? Big open conflicts. But the Abenaki show us that sometimes the most powerful form of resistance is just quiet survival, when just continuing to exist becomes its own act of defiance.
You have to picture it. The Abenaki were people of the forest. Their entire world, from their seasonal camps for hunting and farming to their deepest spiritual beliefs, was woven into the natural rhythm of what we now call New England and Eastern Canada.
But as colonial settlements expanded and new diseases swept through, their population was devastated. They faced an impossible choice. So, instead of being wiped out completely, many Abenaki families made the incredible decision to disappear. They quietly blended into colonial towns, hiding their identity to protect their families and carry their heritage forward in the shadows. And that's a big reason why their story is so often overlooked.
All right, for our final story, we're heading over to Wisconsin to talk about the Menominee. And this one is so important because it just breaks that pervasive narrative of tragedy and gives us a powerful story of incredible foresight and success.
So much of the history we're taught focuses on what was lost. The Menominee story is such a vital correction to that. It's a story about what was preserved, what was carefully managed, and what was achieved through just brilliant stewardship of their land.
I mean, just let that number sink in for a second. Over 150 years. Think about it. While huge parts of the country were being clear-cut for short-term profit, the Menominee were managing their forests for the long haul. They proved that you could have both a healthy economy and a healthy ecosystem.
And what's amazing is their method wasn't some big secret. It was just smart. By only harvesting mature trees, they made sure the forest could naturally replenish itself forever. This allowed them to build an economy for their people while honoring their cultural duty to care for the land.
Okay, so we've heard these three incredible, different stories: the Lumbee, the Abenaki, and the Menominee. So what's the big takeaway here? How does hearing these forgotten voices really change the way we should be looking at American history?
This is it right here. This is the heart of the matter. There's no such thing as the Native American experience. It's not a monolith. There are hundreds of unique stories of struggle, adaptation, and survival, and each one deserves to be heard on its own terms.
Let's just break it down one more time. The Lumbee, they teach us that your community, who you are, can be stronger than lines on a map. The Abenaki, they redefine resistance, showing us that just enduring is a victory. And the Menominee, they proved that success and stewardship are a vital and often ignored part of the history.
See, when we only focus on the loudest, most famous conflicts, we miss all of this. We miss these rich, complex, and frankly, brilliant stories of people who survived not just with weapons, but with community, with strategy, and with a deep, powerful wisdom.
And that really leaves us with a huge question, doesn't it? The Lumbee, the Abenaki, and the Menominee are just 3 examples out of hundreds upon hundreds. Their stories are a powerful reminder that history is filled with these forgotten voices just waiting to be heard. The real question is, are we ready to start listening?